for a start, I'd just like to thank Tenshin Roshi for a fantastic talk yesterday. We're really lucky to have a distillation of many decades, more than you probably want to remember, of being a student, of being a teacher, of being a human being. Really wonderful distillation of the teaching, so thank you. I was thinking, just before I started, that I once asked Tenkei Roshi, who I learned most from Genpo Roshi. I don't know whether he was teasing me or not, but he said he learned to listen. And I'm hoping that you'll learn that, what you'll learn is that take that somewhere else. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Okay, let's get this other one. Yeah, that work? Yeah. Okay. That you'll engage with me and participate. That's what I'd really like you to. Or engage with each other as well as me. Please feel really free to join in if you want to. This is a potpourri. I was thinking this is a kind of muesli talk. It's got a bit of carbohydrate padding, it's got some nuts, currants, but it's a mix. And I wanted to start off by talking about the spiritual journey. And I don't even like the phrase, I'm not even sure what spiritual journey, I'm not sure what spiritual is, there's just life. Some aspects of it we call spiritual, but it's just life. And this life is the leading edge, if you like, of everything that's gone on before. Everybody else's life, everything from the very beginning of time, all the cause and effect that's gone on, we're the outcome of that, and the world is the manifestation of that. And in a way, the spiritual journey is going to address that in a way. How do we act? What do we think? What do we feel? How will we affect what will become the future of the world in the way we act? And I'm imagining that everybody here agrees with the idea that the unexamined life is not a worthy life. So I'm assuming that you want to examine your life. Yeah. So what I've written at the top here is that the spiritual growth, forgive me, we'll just use that term because I think we all understand what I'm talking about. But spiritual growth is theoretically the easiest, for me anyway, and theoretically the most difficult. And I wonder why is it theoretically the most well, I think it's theoretically the most easiest, but why is it theoretically the most easiest, do you think? Maybe you disagree with me, but you think theoretically it's the most difficult.
Compared to what?
Pardon?
Compared to what?
Okay, let's just go. It is difficult then. How's that? No, okay. See me finding some comparison. It is difficult. It is theoretically difficult. I mean, easy. Sorry, it is theoretically easy. But why is it theoretically easy?
Is it because we're naturally inclined to do it?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because it's what we want. I think that's why we're all here. It's what we want. And why is it the most difficult?
Because the bit of us that wants it isn't the right bit.
Yeah, yeah. Because certainly my human nature and yours, possibly perhaps less so than mine, is forgetful of no self. And no self is the problem for the self. Because the self wants other than really embodying the idea of no self. And when the Buddha's realization, his discovery was nothing that hadn't been there before. It's been present and was present all the time. So he didn't enter any new territory or He just saw things as they were, as they are. And as I understand it, what he extinguished was the false view of self. So what had always been illusory became clear to him. And nothing was changed. And like when Dogen came back from China, he asked what he brought with him. He said, I think, was it a vertical nose and horizontal eyebrows or eyes? And when the Buddha was asked, what are you? He just said, I am awakened. And when I first heard that, it kind of confused me. But then a good message for me is that for most of the history of humanity, we thought the earth was flat. And then we discovered it wasn't flat. And people's views and ideas changed, but actually nothing changed. It had never been flat. And the same with the sun. Who was it, Copernicus or Galileo? Which one was it? Copernicus. Yeah. I mean, he got into serious trouble because he said the earth went around the sun and not vice versa. And yet nothing changed except our perception. And that happens to us as well. You got into trouble with, you always get into trouble with power and institutions if you claim something different than they believe, particularly if they seriously believe it. And it's the same for us. I remember Genpo Roshi used to say that when we start to dismantle the walls of the prison we create around ourselves to make ourselves feel secure and keep all those buggers out who want our stuff or ideas or whatever, once we drop the walls, then we're more vulnerable. We do get knocked. So the spiritual journey is not necessarily easy. Because then we're more open with our vulnerability, and I think that's why I really love when spiritual intelligence Trungpa talks about the bodhisattva warrior. The warrior for Trungpa, the warrior is somebody who's prepared to be vulnerable, not to go over the top, gung ho, and get killed, but to tell everybody else you shit scared and then go over the top. So being vulnerable is being a warrior. But I wonder, well I've as I say, there's a potpourri and I've pulled things out the oven that I've already cooked, but I've written that the spiritual path is deep and significant, certainly was for me, and I might say something about that later. And it involves, a lot of effort for just even being here. But disasters, troubles, disillusionment are all part of the path, and they can't. I've never found they could be gainsayed. I'd always hoped that there could be some, drop-off body and mind, and I'd leap into some place of liberation and freedom and be happy forevermore. And sadly it never happened. I have a story here. It's a story from the Jewish tradition. You may have heard it before, but I'll just read it to you. And I'm interested in your take on it. So there was a poor tailor from a province has a dream that a treasure is buried underneath a bridge leading to a castle. So the tailor packs his bags and goes to the capital city, could be Jerusalem or anywhere. He approaches the bridge he saw in his dream, but there is a soldier standing guard. For long hours the tailor stands gazing at the bridge, not knowing what to do. Finally the soldier asks him why he's been standing there for so long, and the innocent and honest tailor tells him the story. So he had a dream, and he'd found a treasure under the bridge. The soldier laughs. "Foolish Jew," he says, believing the fantasies of sleep. "Let me tell you the difference between you and me. I too have had a dream. I dreamt that under the stove of a Jewish tailor in a far-off province was a buried treasure. You travel all the way at such a cost of time and effort chasing dreams for nothing. I, on the other hand, know a dream for a dream, and I don't waste my time. The tailor promptly went home, dug under his stove, found the treasure, and lived out the rest of his days a prosperous man. So, who are we going to go with? The soldier or the Jewish tailor? Jewish tailor, yeah. So having a dream and having a vision is great, and that is the raising a bodhisattva mind. So we have this interesting conversation often, particularly Miranda and I, about trying and not trying, and effort and no effort. And it's neither, it's both effort and no effort. It's effortless effort. It's all these Zen paradoxes. But maybe you can tell me, but do you have a fall and redemption every day? I do. Fall from grace and then redemption and then fall again and then all these things, Is it like that for you, or do you have a kind of steady, ongoing sense of well-being?
I think it's more a steady, ongoing fall.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
Sensei, my revelation is based on your story, that rather than following somebody else's vision, I need to follow my own vision. I need to follow somebody else's.
Yeah. So, the finale to this story is that we begin at home, we leave home and return home. And in a way, we're always returning home. But it doesn't feel like that when we're distant. Yeah. This business of seeing things differently, having a different perspective, it's not just a fixed view. Forgive me because I've told this story before, but it really kind of resonates for me because it so demonstrates so clearly how we're fixed culturally and in our attitude, and it's about. Anyway, I'll just ask you, when you think about the future, you look forward, don't you? And when you think about the past, you look back. Because that's an ordinary way of thinking, isn't it? That's all we normally think of. The future's down there and the past is back there. Well, a long time ago I read, which is why I've said this a few times, but it was about a tribe that lived by a river. And when they talk about the future, they look behind them. And when they talk about the past, they look ahead of them.
Mm-hmm. Makes much better sense because you can't see behind you, and that's
No,
the future.
That's the future, yes. So when they live on a river, what's coming downstream, which is behind them, is the future, and what's already gone past, downstream, is the past. So, but we automatically think the other way around, and we think it's right, and it really suggests you, whatever fixed view you have, look at the opposite side. I was thinking yesterday, and so I am just rambling a bit and potpourriing and so on and so forth, but when Roshi talked, it's a great idea which I'm going to do, for sure, is to go out into some solitary wilderness place and speak my thoughts for an hour. That was a great idea. I did it once when I was working with some people, and I was having a really kind of angst time, and the wind was blowing, and I was really fed up with the world and the universe, and I was screaming, "Fuck off, universe," in the wind, and fortunately it was going the wrong way, and the person I was shouting heard me, going, "What are you doing, Dave? What's going on?" An interesting thing for me, and it's not necessarily particularly kind of reassuring or settling, but how many of you have the opportunity to spend real time on your own? I know some people can't because they're busy and they've got family, but when you're really on your own, and you're not having to respond to people around you, you're not having to play any particular role, the roles you normally play, what is your default position? What do you really feel like inside? What does it feel like to be just you on your own?
It's lovely.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
For me it is.
Right.
No, it is. It's
Oh,
fun, but
really?
I'm surrounded by people most of the time. So when I have that opportunity, it's
But what does it feel like to be tin?
spacious.
Okay.
And I haven't got people nibbling at me all the
Okay.
time. Spacious.
What about if you were alone for 5 days?
Probably more confined than spacious.
Okay.
No, I see where you go with that.
Okay. So anyone else? I mean, that's not my default position.
I got really, really bored with myself.
Yeah.
Really seriously bored.
Yeah.
Bored. Yeah.
It's to me, it's a bit of a potpourri, you know. Sometimes, if I'm being honest, there's been times when I've been desperately lonely.
Mhm.
You know, really, and having to actually come to terms with that and live with it and make friends with it.
Mhm.
There's times when you know, there's no one to get angry with, and I get angry with it. You know, if I'm wiping something down and something falls, I get pissed off with inanimate objects. You know, that
Yeah.
stuff still comes out. You know, so you still have to deal with your shit
You
even
do.
in those situations.
Even more so, because there's
Yeah.
nowhere to go. Yeah. Anyone else? What's your default position, Emma?
I'd probably say miserable.
Miserable. Yeah. Yeah.
Uncomfortable and miserable.
Uncomfortable, miserable. Yeah.
I think that for me, you know, the temptation is to do something,
Yeah.
fill it up
Fill it up. Yeah.
in a meaningful
Give it
way.
some meaning. Yeah.
This can't be good just
Yeah.
being.
Yeah. It's to sit in it. The reason I ask you the question is that very often, what we're hoping for is the practice will, in some way, dramatically change that default way that we are. I'm really, you know, I'm going bone deep here, so you know, I'm being really real about it. You know, my experience is that doesn't happen. But what does happen is that I start to become open to it and aware of it, and it loses its power. So it's kind of, it dissolves.
What I tend to do is what the practice has taught me as opposed to what I do in the past, and I wouldn't call it progress or anything, but I force myself to feel what I'm feeling, and even though it might be really, really unpleasant, saying I'm just going to experience this.
Gonna get
There's nothing else I can do.
Let it roll over you. That's what it feels like. Let it roll. I want to ask you this though: when you're completely on your own, do you do things that you wouldn't do if another person was there? For instance, do you fulfill your agreed obligations? Are you careful about the way you use your washing up liquid? Do you recycle your stuff? Do you flush the toilet? Do you really? I mean, how are you when you're really on your own and there's nobody watching?
I wear less clothes than I wear.
I wouldn't like to say so.
All these things give us some measure of ourselves, you know, and I think we need to be really ruthless with ourselves. I'm not saying we judge you, there's anything, it's wrong or bad, you know, it's what am I really like? And what is the front? What am I putting on? Because that's a strange, you know, it can be a real strain to be yourself.
Sensei, I find I put a front on even for myself though.
That's fascinating, isn't it? So then immediately what comes up for me is, what is it that's putting on the front? Who's behind this self that's putting on the front for the self? There's many layered, isn't it?
And I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah.
No.
But I've got a fascinating array of fronts.
I thought in the you know to be in the gist of things, in the kind of sense of the way I've been speaking and asking you, as I say, before I came here, I pulled out various things, thinking I've have nothing to talk about. I mean, we'd have to do one of those Zen things where I sit down here for 5 minutes and get up and leave. And that's the teaching. But I dug out something that I wrote whilst I was here, training with Tenshin Roshi many years ago, about where I was. And I know, my spiritual life's no more, is no more significant or interesting than yours is. So, but I thought it would be interesting for you if I read to you what I'd actually written. And I started it off with, who's Francois Sagan? Have you anybody? I've got a quote by Francois Sagan. Is she a French singer?
French writer.
Is she a French writer? Oh, she said, a bird does not sing because she has an answer. She sings because she has a song. A bird does not sing because she has an answer. She sings because she has a song. And that reminded me of Goethe's famous saying that pardon? No, tell me.
A rose is a rose is a rose. Is that one?
No, he said the purpose of life is life.
Mm.
Purpose of life is life. And that was never enough for me, So this is what I've written. It's a bit kind of vulnerable. But this quote up there. This quote is important for me since my life has been deeply affected and to some degree scarred by my search for meaning. What is life for has been my refrain since I was in my late 20s, and the lack of any answer that I could sustain intellectually has driven me to despair and angst. I wrote this quite a while ago. Even now, not knowing continues to hurt me. All the Zen training I have, it's my writing, so all the Zen training I have, experience has taught me to embrace this life, this not knowing, to be it. But it irritates me, and the question still arises. I seem to need the validation of some external source to give my life meaning, to give my life a point. The creation itself has a purpose. I am, however, inspired by a sculptor whose work I really liked. Who's now become famous, and in fact it's very relevant because he's another place down at the beach. I'd really recommend you go and see it if you haven't. I am, however, inspired by a sculptor whose work I really liked, who told how every time he entered the studio, he was faced by the question of what meaning his work has. Only by facing the answer that it has none, and being with that sense of pointlessness, does he arrive at the place where he can really work with a sense of purpose. Mm. And so it was really, at the time, really. Anthony Gormley, he actually started all those sculptures. When he left college, and I think he was in India for a while, he came back, he rented the studio, a completely empty space. He went in there with nothing, with no material, and what was he going to do? How was he going to work? And he came up with the idea that he would use his own body. And he's done that ever since, as you know, in many different wonderful ways. So okay, I'll carry on with what I wrote. To give my life a point that creation itself has a purpose. I know that from Zen practice and cone study that I am my own validation, my own 100% responsibility, and that includes giving my life meaning in whatever way I think valuable or worthwhile. Zen is the right tradition for me. It faces me with my basic fear of no point. Also on that account, it is the hardest practice for me to follow. There is no escape. How much do you depend on the great life, or Mu, or the universe, and how much do you respond to your own wishes and ideas? Not that there is any separation between the two, was my last scribbled in ink. I've now got something which is what practice means for me now, but I'm not going to read you that yet, even if I do. But I wonder what you think. Does any of that resonate for anyone? Yeah. You feel? Yeah. What does it mean if it doesn't have any point?
For me, I don't, just from my perspective, I don't really have, I do not think there is a point to life. I don't think there's a purpose of life. I think there just is this. And I think for me as Tim, I think I just am. That is sadly how I see it. I don't feel that I have or need.
Do you know what's much more interesting, Tim? Questions. I mean, that you question that. You know, do you really question? Is it actually pointless? Is it only just about? Is it just me? I mean, I'm appreciative of what you're saying, but what we have to be careful is when we say things. For me, anyway, for them to maintain any kind of life, is they can't be closed. You know, if we say something that's closed, that this is it shuts it down. We can't speak about it anymore. So this is not a judgment or criticism. I'm just saying, for all of us, I think for any intercourse we have with people about anything, not to speak in closed sentences. Because
I think also, as much as I would like to see a path or a spiritual path, at the moment I don't see a path as such. I just see this.
Okay.
That's how at the moment I see it.
Thank you.
Is that more open?
Relatively more open.
I didn't mean to sound quite so. I don't feel nice about that.
I think that I learn more, and I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I learn more from people's questioning and vulnerabilities than I do from what they know. Because then I can kind of share my own, you know, and we can recognise that we're all part and parcel of this whole show. We could call it a show.
I grew up an atheist, so I always knew that life didn't have a point. And
you're an atheist? Do you say you're not, or you are?
I grew up an atheist. Well, I don't know, I'm now a Zen atheist.
Okay.
So I always thought that I knew that life didn't have a point.
Didn't have, okay.
There wasn't one, and I was always okay with that.
Yeah.
But from practice, I seem to have, slightly different from you, developed the idea that life does have a point.
Oh, this was written even before Anthony Gormley's sculptures were down there, whilst I was still sitting at Roshi's knee.
Yeah, now it's like,
no.
Now it's saying that I feel that life does have a point, and I don't have a clue what it is, but I know that it's there, and there is something reassuring about it being there.
Yeah.
Maybe it is just the path in that side of the thing, but yeah.
Well, you know the way I came to terms with it is that the question is the wrong question. Because the question comes from this, my question and my doubts and my wish for purpose and meaning comes from my sense of a separate dualistic self. And that's the part of me that's asking that question, and that's the part that desperately wants some security, some sense that there is a reason. But if we accept that that's deluded, then the question doesn't have any, have any ground. Sorry.
Before I discovered Zen, I was very much a Darwinist and a believer in evolution and a follower of that whole theory. Yeah. And I once wrote in an essay at university about organisms being adapted to their environment. And the professor who was marking me shot me down in the first sentence this was. And he said, no. He said, it's abaption. Organisms are adapted by their environment.
Ah, okay.
Not towards, but by.
By, yeah.
And that absolutely knocked me for six. And I realised, in fact, that since then, that there is no adaptation towards anything. There is no meaning towards. For me, it's an unfolding, and it's wonderfully random and unknowable. And we don't know it. Well, for me.
Yeah, sure. No, I agree.
And that unfolding is actually really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's scary.
And scary, yeah. Yeah, because we...
I've taken a point from Andy. When I was actually, most of my life I've asked all sorts of questions and searched for meaning and searched for, at one time for God and what have you, and I just ended up giving it up, there was no point in doing that for me. And I remember that quote from that poem, which is probably a bit cheesy now, that Desiderata, but I still like to read it now and again. It says, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should, you know, and I thought, just let it go, and it's getting on with it, and there's enough to deal with being me. Don't worry about the big picture.
Thank you.
Just to add as well, the point is what is very interesting, what's coming up for me is that evolutionary mechanisms are actually pointless. They don't have direction. They just happen.
Yeah.
And it's such an amazing thing to kind of realize, because it's so kind of aligned with what we are discussing, what we are practicing. Things just happen. They don't kind of have a designated. They don't need to achieve anything. They don't need to get somewhere.
Yeah.
They just kind of go.
Thank you.
One thing that came up for me was this idea, I can't remember who said it, but that identity is relational.
Yeah.
And I really like that idea. And I think it also keeps it open as a question for me. Like, how do I relate to myself and this idea of meaning and who I am and some sense of identity, but that it's also always shifting.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It's a really interesting point, because if what you say is true, then nothing that happens to us is personal. We can experience it as personal, but in fact, the unconditioned, the non-you, is impersonal. It's impersonal. It's so, you know, to take the only thing where I think it's hubris. You know, I really don't like all that. You know, business people say people have got ill because of their nature or this or that. I mean, it could be a contributing factor, but actually, these things are random. They just happen to us. The only power that we have is you know, we do have it, is to accept complete responsibility for the way we respond. That's you know, that's the only power we have. The rest is impersonal and random. You know, you're walking down the road and the brick falls on your head off a roof. It wasn't your fault. You know, the wind was blowing in the wrong direction. And how does it feel? How does it feel to you if you really embodied that how you experience the world is completely your responsibility? How does that feel? Does that feel freeing, or does it feel
scary?
Scary.
It's really scary.
Yeah.
No, I've never done it.
Pardon? You've never done it? It's worth a try, you know, just for a kind of practice.
Well, the thing about what's the point of this all, I ask myself a million times a day probably, and I know it's ridiculous, because what I'm looking for is someone else to answer that.
Yeah.
I want someone else, not necessarily a person, but something, the universe, to display itself. So I know.
That would be handy, wouldn't it?
It's something out there. It's ridiculous, but it's the way it goes.
I find that also applies to practice as well. You know, in the sense of, I know it's a mistake at one level, but you know, the sense that I've been doing this all these years. Something ought to be happening by now. You know. And I know that's a block, you know, it's a sort of sense of attainment, but it does come up.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult to be able to express your vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Even that word vulnerable makes you feel vulnerable. And then do you say something, or do you hold it in? You know, there's so many different ways to approach it.
Sure. And as I sit here looking out, I mean, I've got a different perspective than you have. You're looking at me and I'm looking at you. What I see is a lot of people who've not contributed, haven't participated, who are sitting quietly. Maybe some have gone to sleep. Maybe some of you can't hear me. Maybe you're sitting in the back because you don't want to be engaged, like when you go to the theatre and you're nervous, the actors might actually take part, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I see you, and what's going through my head is, are you shy? Are you bored? Are you not interested? Pardon?
I've don't feel that if I was down the front, I could communicate, but such a long way away. I find that quite difficult.
Do you?
Join in, yeah.
I thought you were being vulnerable.
No, I mean, I'm serious. Anybody who's not said anything, is it explain to me?
No, it's if I can add something.
Could you stand up? Sorry, to make me even more exposed, but I can't. Yeah, go on. Great, good man.
I'm thinking about this search for something deep and meaningful in our lives, and obviously everyone says now, yeah, it's random. It could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
We don't have to look for it, but I think personally that this search comes from when you look around, and I look around, I see just this beauty and this how complicated and amazing order.
Yeah.
Everything is so orderly managed.
Yeah.
And then that's probably the reason I just anticipate has to be this which do it, and just something extremely, beautiful, smart, and probably that's the reason for this search.
Okay. So, but for you, it's an experience of wonder that you.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's really nice. Thank you. Thanks. And thanks for standing up. Anyone else who hasn't spoken? Yeah, okay.
Something struck me during the period before sitting. I mean, when we were sitting before the talk.
It wasn't a stick, was it? Sorry, it's go on. Just carry on, sorry. Go on.
Stick occurred to me. No.
Go on.
No, it occurred to me that when you will say, please gather round, I visualized what would happen, and that would be that the row in between Sophie and Joe would all turn their zabatans like diamonds. And therefore, the room in between Sophie's row and Paul's row, or let's say Gavin's row, would be quite made smaller. And if they turned themselves and not their zabatans, an entire row of people could come closer from the back. And I also sometimes wonder why you never use the stage.
That's enough, Ish. That's great.
And if I don't
Ish, no, let's stop now, because you bring a wonderfully unique view, but it's definitely Ish view.
If I don't bring my glasses and I'm sitting at the back, there's no way I can hear you because I lip read, you see.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Can you do it from the side?
It's not very easy. It's not easy.
Ish, I know form is a constant irritant for you.
Yeah, but it's not that I'm discussing form now, I'm discussing common sense.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I don't think we put quite enough thought into how we pack in for the talk. It's really important for you to see us and us to see you. And that's why
Ish,
I said to
please
Karen,
stop. Ish, please stop
yes,
now.
yeah.
Stop. We're done. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Back on the subject of vulnerability. I was an expert for years in not showing any vulnerability at all. I was far too scary. I didn't show hardly any emotions, apart from to my kids. That was a safe area that it was okay to show emotions. And I lost out on a lot of life because of it. And being willing to be vulnerable kind of allows a lot more beauty in. So recently I've been going to visit a group of parents who've lost newborn babies. And my colleagues wouldn't go. They said, oh, I'll cry with them. It'd be, no, I can't do that, it's not professional. And it was okay to be there and just to be part of their emotion, to cry with them, and then to be able to move on and help them with the thing that they were dealing with. And I would have been too scared to do that in the past.
Okay, thank you. And Clive, you're going to say something?
On the first night here, I had a dream that I had a huge room with no windows that I had to paint. It was vast room, And to some extent, I feel my experience with Zen kind of mirrors that a little bit, as if you're kind of put in a four-sided box and you're gradually squished down, so all your previous views you start to realise, well, that's bullshit, and that's, common, and that makes you foolish, and so on and so forth, to a point where you get to that intense ball of something, where hopefully it will produce something of some transformation, but it often stops me from, I've got no view anymore.
Okay, yeah, it's a good view though.
Yeah.
That's the best view.
It's not very comfortable.
No, it isn't, but no view is the best view, I think,
I think the moment you or Roshi or somebody asks a question in a public space, my mind goes blank.
Is it? Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And even if there's something before that I think, oh yeah, I want to contribute, it's just gone.
It's gone.
And there's just fear left.
Is that just fear?
I think it's fear, yeah.
Oh, thanks for telling us that. Yeah. Do you feel less fearful now you've spoken?
Yeah. That's what I wanted to try.
Yeah. What about some of the new folk here? People who haven't been on retreat or have been in different traditions, or how is this resonating for you? Do you have any?
I think I try and find a balance, because I learn a lot from other people asking and then the response, and then there's parts of me that I think feels there's a responsibility for me to be part of that as well, because if they didn't ask, then I wouldn't learn. But it's just having a mess to kind of say anything.
Okay. Thank you. Is it Kathleen?
Yeah.
Where are you? I can't even see you.
Oh, no.
Okay. I'm just curious because you've had a lot of experience in business and different traditions.
And this is very much experiential.
Yeah.
As opposed to
I was just curious what your response to this kind of gestalt of the situation. What?
The developing the talks are amazing in context. It's almost to me it seems like a poetry, they seem very organic how they develop and then how people play in.
Okay.
And I find, gosh, they resonate for hours afterwards, just trying to digest the content and contemplating things.
Okay.
And that, but yeah.
So plenty of food then.
Oh, more than
Good. Okay, I just wanted to, a few things that came up yesterday, when I first talk I gave, and Roshi hinted at it as well, on how do we approach, how do we embrace the opposing dual functions of acceptance and effort? When do we choose to accept or embrace? And when do we choose to effort? So I'm thinking of those times when we have a big decision perhaps to make, and part of us wants to wait and feel some. In this tradition we call it our basic wisdom, and I really believe in that. I do believe we all carry basic wisdom, but it doesn't get much chance to surface because there's a lot of radio interference going on all the time, and Sesshin gives us the opportunity to allow that to, and I pragmatically, only pragmatically, in my experience, and I think what the people have told me as well, is that after Sesshin we can arrive intuitively at a decision which we know which we feel is the right one. We don't even have to question it, we just go with it. In our own lives, in an ordinary everyday life, we don't necessarily have that opportunity to get in touch. And so we can sit waiting until we get bored. Which is what happens to me. I'm waiting for an answer from the universe. It doesn't come. And in the end, I decided to take the universe by the neck and go for it myself. I just wonder what you do. Do you have that experience?
No.
You don't? You don't have that? How does it work for you?
Too often.
Pardon?
Too often.
You have that too often?
Too often, yeah.
So it's familiar to you, that
Yeah.
kind of dilemma. Yeah. How do you handle it?
If I'm in a depressive mood, I sit down doing nothing. If I'm in a manic mood, I will do too much.
Yeah, okay.
No, but I think, partly because, partly the situation, I think, partly is because there's so much coming up, and the language is partly a problem
for you. Yes, your second.
Because there's so many.
Is this your third
nuances.
language?
Pardon?
Is this your third language or your second language?
Well, I don't know. It's my no language.
Your no language.
But what I find problematic is that for the moment is that when we talk about everybody's experience is a true experience, and then I wonder, in the situation where we are at, is really every experience the true experience that we can act upon, or because we have these alternative truths, going on now. So is my experience
alternative truths? Is this false?
Alternative facts, whatever you call it. So I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I'm stuck. I told you, I think I'm sort of paralyzed by this in a way.
Yeah. There's one thing that I do when I get in those when I have to make a choice is that if something arises, first of all, you were talking about acceptance. Part of acceptance for me is seeing if that thing is true by finding out facts.
Yeah.
So I gather as much as I can, and then I feel what is the best direction, or and then I'll go down that direction until it proves to be right or wrong.
Well, if you're dependent on other people, joining your path,
yes.
So
exactly.
What do I do then?
Get the information from them too.
Well, tell
For me,
them.
I mean, that's what I do. No, I don't want to,
I just want to take over.
No. I mean, you are in a uniquely difficult rock and hard place. There's no.
I think we all are.
We all are, but
because I think that's sort of basically it's
on the spectrum, though.
On the spectrum, Well, I think it's not a question of being in different position. It's a question of the strength and power of it. I think we're all there because we're all facing.
Yeah.
Well, that's your experience. That's my. What does Bernie say? That's your story, guy, and that's my story. Is that the way it is?
Well, I've kind of jumped the gun on it. I mean, but what I've written down here is that both effort and acceptance are vital, and effort without acceptance definitely leads to ideas of loss and gain and right and wrong and judgment. Acceptance effort without acceptance, whereas acceptance without effort leads to complacency and fatalism. So how do we walk that path?
I like that.
Yeah, of the two. Yeah. Sorry, can you say something?
Yeah, Sensei, Roshi mentioned briefly yesterday Kapleau's 3 Pillars of Zen and the descriptions of enlightenment in it, which had me sort of really revved up for many years. I was going to get one of those.
Yeah.
I was going to get one of those. And it took me a long time to get over that. And I think what I've kind of grabbed onto since, and my next goal is that somehow through practice, that thing between effort and acceptance will become natural and intuitive.
Okay. Yeah.
But I remain really suspicious because intuition can often end up, for me, and I see it in others as well, confirming prejudice. How do you tell the difference between intuition and prejudice? When intuition arises, is it just because you would have always felt that anyway, or is it something fresh? Is it something new? And I've always, and I think maybe I need to slightly let go of the idea that practice is going to give me that as well. That's just something else to gain.
Slightly let go.
It's the great challenge of this practice, is that we're each responsible to arriving at our own ethical view, and that's a great challenge for us all. Woo?
I don't know that gentleman's name, but just
Thomas.
realised what he said.
Mine? Okay, Thomas, sorry.
Psychologists did an interesting study on clinicians, and they basically found out that most of the time, based exactly on that gut instinct, the doctor walks into a room and swiftly makes a diagnosis like that because everything's so clear, it has to be that. And the vast majority of the time it is actually correct and that is spot on, and you proceed and everything's hunky-dory. But they actually discovered that sometimes when that kind of frame of mind relying on instinct is wrongly applied and several clues are not seen, then it goes horrendously wrong. Okay. It really does. So I am, because I'm usually reliant on knowledge, bookwork, thoughts and so on and so forth, I actively do try to kind of go the other way and try the other side. Mm-hmm. And I also affirm very much the instinctive experiential side of the Zen. But I'm also aware, based on my own experience, that if I over-rely on that really, really, really can go horribly wrong.
Okay.
So I think we should also be aware of that.
Yeah, thanks, Ruben.
That reminds me that there's a book called Do No Harm by a neuropsychologist.
Henry Marsh.
Yeah, Henry Marsh, and he talks about that, and sometimes he's an expert, he's one of the best brain surgeons around, and but he sometimes has made mistakes because he's he's gone by an instinct and he's made a mistake. I mean, when you were talking, Dave, though, about acceptance and effort, at first it seemed a bit theoretical to me, but I think if you're talking about a person, aren't you? You're talking about me.
Yeah.
Do I make an effort to change or do I not? And it seems to me most spiritual traditions or religions or whatever are trying to get you to change, aren't they? They're trying to get you to be like them. They're trying to be like this. Don't be selfish, don't be greedy, don't be angry, don't be violent, don't be this, that and the other. And if we don't do that, are we like that? Are we greedy, angry and everything else? Or have we got an innate sort of wholesomeness, if you like, that any effort to change that is meaningless anyway because it's ingrained or something, or we're coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I find that very interesting. I always feel I do have to try because I slip into too much greed, anger and ignorance.
Right, yeah. I'm going to finish now. I'm just going to, but thank you. The fantastic question that and challenge for us all, isn't it? How do we deal with that?
Yeah.
But I'm just going to finish. I said neither Zen practice or life in general, for me, will ever be what I want them to be. Reality is not interested in my view of how things should be. There is no problem-free sphere of existence that we can reach.
Yeah, then you'd be God.
Be God, yeah. That'd be fun. On a bus. And just leading on from what you said, my final question to myself is, am I leading a self-centered or a selfless life? And there's no judgment in that, but am I? What allows me to function best and respond best to myself and the people around me? That is a question that each of us can meaningfully ask ourselves, without judgment, by the way. What was that you said? Take him out, take him in naked and on the toilet. That ain't a judge. Yeah. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you.